So does the potential threat from hundreds of young British jihadis when they return to these shores in any way justify mass surveillance by the intelligence services? On this programme last night, we revealed that Tony Blair's government struck a deal allowing the Americans to scrutinise the phone records of British citizens, even if they weren't suspected of any wrongdoing. The Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, said today the revelations strengthened the case for an inquiry. I've been talking to Sir David Oman, former head of GCHQ, and I began by asking him what intelligence services could do to keep track of British jihadis when they return to the UK.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there by saying keep track of them. That is obviously the first and most important thing to be able to do, and for that they do have to have the capabilities to keep these individuals' communications under surveillance. There's been a lot of controversy recently about that because of the revelations of Edward Snowden, but it's precisely these capabilities that seem to me to be absolutely essential in trying to measure the scale of this threat. I don't want to exaggerate the 200 or 300. They're not all going to come back fired up with anger to attack us here, but there will undoubtedly be some who will, and that does justify a proper response.
The deal we reported on last night allowed the US to analyse British phone records. Were you aware of this deal in any way?
I'm not sure I would even characterise it as a deal. What seems to have been revealed is that analysis of call records, in those days telephone numbers, could be carried out. That's the kind of detective work which is routine. So I'm afraid I don't see that this is something that we should get too excited about.
One of the paragraphs in the documents we saw and reported on last night wasn't even seen by British intelligence at the time, and it states that the Americans were prepared to spy on British citizens unilaterally and the UK wouldn't be told. Is that a potential breach of trust?
Have we any evidence that that clause was actually acted upon? I haven't, and I don't expect you have either.
Do you care about the existence of that clause, though?
Is that any different from the supreme national interest clauses which are written into all sorts of defence agreements? I expect that if British national interest was really affected, we would, I hope, take all the measures necessary to keep our own people safe. That doesn't mean that during everyday operations, two countries can't work very closely together with very, very high degrees of trust, and there is that level of trust.
The chair of the Commons Intelligence and Security Committee, Sir Malcolm Rifkind, wants an urgent explanation from GCHQ of the deal, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, is calling for an inquiry. Do you see any merit in an inquiry of that sort, or a vote by MPs to try and restore trust in the intelligence services?
I have every confidence in Malcolm Rifkind and the Intelligence and Security Committee. They're quite right to ask these questions when issues arise, but my advice to them all would be deal with it calmly and soberly and don't get too excited about it.
So no inquiry and no vote in Parliament is needed in your view?
Certainly not.
Sir David Oman talking to me earlier.